Yo, and welcome back to portfolio session number 3 already. It really goes by really fast, but yeah, number 3 already. That's really cool. Um, yeah, in case you haven't been here before, just wanted to tell you again about the charity, like for which charity we're actually doing the stream for. The charity is called Child's Play. This charity is this charity helps to make the yeah helps to make the lives of people who are in the hospital, specifically children and teenagers, by like via means of play, providing toys and technology to make the confusing and very like intense time at the hospital just a little bit just a little bit more bearable. And yeah, over the break we had between the last and this one, we had a massive donation of $200 from GeoDraws, which is absolutely insane. So many thanks for that. And yeah, I think we can get started straight away with Tiago. And let's switch over. I did see your message, by the way, in case if you are already watching and listening. I did see your message about the update, but that should be all good. I did see that the new VFX tree was popping up. But that said, I would maybe say to start with, like the sort of the general impression that I got was, so yeah, there's indeed a very specific style that you want to go for. Really, kind of really makes sense of like, okay, this is the type of games you want to make or want to go for. Like I do see that you already have some like 2D like specific or like animated short like specific like experience as well. And I think that is also kind of showing there, because that like the way sort of the whole quality of it is very good. It's only that I think what I've been kind of seeing in your work itself is that you probably have to maybe adjust it a little bit as to how you approach it. Because what I sometimes tend to find, or what I tend to see, is that the you want to make sort of the whole let's say flipbook very unique, but it can sometimes just lead to the overall like read of the effect being very like messy, or maybe not really fit for that purpose. Because it could be the case that you maybe just want to go for specific like shapes or like shape language or style, but like for example, like I saw and I came across it right here. It's not really viewable here, like very clearly, but let's see. Yeah, think right here. There's like a lot, like quite a bit of like the flipbook is being spawned, and that can make it very, maybe just like appear very messy in that sense. So I think what you can maybe sort of see if you can try and make it a bit more generic overall, just like a very low, maybe like lower like detail than usual, and see if you can make it so that it can still be somewhat distinct, but it blends together a little better. Maybe just like that it is a bit less standing out by itself, but working more in like a cohesive type setting, as in that it's a bit more adaptable. Because I think if you were, let's say, maybe have like maybe half of the particles less or something along those lines, then I think you'll get it maybe just in a little bit of a better spot when it comes to the overall detail of it all. But then I think it will indeed lose the overall, how do you say, volume of like the actual effect. And it was kind of apparent here with, let's say, the jump, or at least the jump jet animation, or let's see where it was again. Anonymous, thank you so much for the 10. That's very cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, like kind of right here. That is kind of making it so that you do see that there is yeah, you have these specific shapes, but it's, yeah, you seemingly sort of counterbalance this by spawning a lot of them, and that makes it so that you really, or at least to my feel, is that it's really sort of getting very sparse as to, yeah, the overall feel of the, like, the smoke itself, if that makes sense. Because I think if I want to maybe start here, because I think that the best way you sort of incorporate this is right here. Yeah, the way it's sort of blending together well is very nice, but I would maybe say that this is again suffering from the same problem. Like I see here that it's getting very noisy here at the back, for example. Yeah, with that, you could, for example, say that you maybe can sort of combine it with, let's say, maybe a flipbook that's maybe a bit more unique, but maybe something along the lines of a, like, supporting element that is maybe more shader based, or looks like it's fitting in with the like actual flipbook itself. Because yeah, I guess also a thing you have to consider here is that going full flipbook basically means that you really have to be very careful in like what type of or at least the amount of like flipbooks that you use, because it's going to, yeah, it can of course take like quite a bit of texture memory as well, and then that also sort of circles back to the whole thing about the, yeah, the sort of the genericness of the flipbooks, if you will. Could maybe sort of work a bit counteractive. So I see that in sort of your production work for, yeah, the 2D, is that it's a bit more tailor made, but in a gameplay context it could be maybe just a bit too much, bit messy, bit noisy if you were to combine it with yeah, let's say more than one particle. If that makes sense. Like, but right here I do see that you have like it's sort of blended in very nicely, but the read is overall can be somewhat on the flat side. What I would say there is maybe if you could then do something similar along those lines, like sort of keeping in mind that you also like apply the same principles of like maybe some, let's say, some top-down lighting, so it can be a bit more flexible as to in which direction you light it from. And with that, you can maybe say you have a, let's say, a mask that is then taking care of maybe just the highlights or something, and then you then blend this in with the mask of, let's say, the like a 3D mask or something where the supposed, let's say, brightest points is supposed to be, and they you can get a little bit more like variety back in terms of the, yeah, let's say the color, like the color depth, if you will. And yeah, so it overall reads a little bit less like flat, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's kind of, I guess, the same for like the muzzle flashes here. You could, for example, say that this is the way you want to go, but something I would maybe suggest if you want to maybe go back here. Let's switch it up a little bit. Because like right now, like it does seem, for example, let me see. See where it was again. No, anyways, that can be circumvented regardless. But anyways, so for example, you right now maybe have something like this. See if that will work. No, apparently not, but that's easily fixed. I think maybe you just go for like marker. Yeah. So let's say if something like this. This is maybe S2 for some illustration, right? Because if you were to then maybe copy this, and what you sort of can do is maybe sort of restrict down the very like sort of bright spots, and fill this in with another color that is like somewhat close to it. Maybe let's say just a tad more to the left or to the right from the like the color wheel, or maybe like a complementary color, or maybe just like a different hue or overall strength. And you then could, for example, maybe say like you just sort of mark down a color that is maybe just let me see. Not reaching as far. But you're sort of being a lot more selective as to what sort of the highlights of basically that whole region is. Maybe you could even say that you sort of like white out this part right here, like very subtle, but it just reads a little bit more differently, if that makes sense. Because then you have a bit more like interest if you maybe look at it from like a very small scale. Somewhat retains the same feel, but it's still it maintains the same feel, but it makes it just a bit more interesting to look at, if that makes sense. And if we were to go back, because overall that one was definitely the nicest feeling overall. Like I do see, for example, that you do have the lights on the actual like bullets, but not seemingly on the actual explosion, at least not to a very strong degree. And yeah, I think, let's see, also like a one that was standing out. Yeah, like right here, this kind of also highlights a little bit what I think was a bit of a problem with timing overall. I kind of saw because if I were to sort of go back here again, I see that it's very, like it overall feels correct, but the timing of the like that sphere right here, like that's appearing at the beginning, it's feels very slow, because I think you could maybe like make that a bit more violent, and that counts the same for all the like modes here that are coming off. I think if you were to sort of put it in the context of the style you were going for, it's maybe just a bit too much again. And I think it could also be a bit more, because for example, in this instance, like the amount of sparks you have is like enough, because the emphasis is more on the stylized part, not on the actual like crispy detail. And right here, you could maybe see if you could place it all along sort of the length of the beam, and make it so that you maybe just have less of them, because otherwise it feels a bit too detailed and makes it more like realistic. In that sense, I would also like the electricity you see around here. see if it's maybe better place. Yeah, right here. This feels a little off, if that makes sense, because it's so slow moving. And then if it was more meant as let's say some like plasma, I could understand, but I think you could maybe do away with some other techniques to maybe use this exact flipbook and maybe sort of move like have mesh splines like along the outside here, so it then conforms a bit better with like the actual gun itself. But for if it's meant to feel like actual electricity, then it's just really on the like very very slow side. I would make this like a lot more like zappy, if you will. Yeah, I think the problem. Yeah, I think this this overall like dust that you used was, yeah, it forms this sort of like very elastic or like magnetic band sort of type read. And I think if I were to maybe go back, I think it could be like a lot better if you could maybe just make it a little bit more spiky in terms of how like in the way it feels. And let's see, use this pen. Yeah, let's say like something along those lines. What can also really help, for example, is that you like really make this a lot softer, and so you get like a sense of speed, and yeah, that makes it a little bit more ambient in terms of feel, because it doesn't really have to be this thick, I would say. I think with that, for example, you could yeah, kind of like basically say that you also have some of these like smoke plumes here. So basically follow these like smoke plumes where, for example, you could also integrate this into the dust here to maybe just fill it out. Like in that sense where you, like let's say have, let me switch things here. So you, for example, have these smoke parts here, kind of like you have in like right here. Something that could also maybe as a like an extra element to like basically enhance this smoke and sort of fill it out, and that sort of in combination with this right here. And yeah, I think that sort of counts the same towards the jump pack you have. And I think it's also maybe just a bit of a shame that there was no seemingly new full committance to like the exhaust here, because I think that could also maybe use a little bit more punchiness, right? It's kind of also on the small side, and the scale of basically, yeah, this element right here is very, very small in comparison. So I think that could have maybe been resolved with a shader that is like more supporting that side and a bit more flexible, so you don't really have to like incorporate that maybe. Just kind of like spitballing here. Yeah, and if you were to maybe go back here, so I think overall, like the actual like swing was really cool. The like the electricity, I think, as well is encountering the same problem where it is like eroding into very fine particles. And I think that could have been sort of harking back to the very let's say shot specific like 2D flipbooks that you were sort of making. But yeah, I kind of think it more as to like make it a little bit less, or how do you say it, a bit less like underwhelming, if you will, or is it maybe just a bit more underwhelming? So it looks a bit by itself, but when it's like all coming together with other elements, then it makes like a lot more sense. Let me see, because I kind of already alluded to sort of that problem where sometimes you can see like the big explosion right here is just really noisy in that sense. Because the other one felt a little bit more appropriate. Yeah, because that reads a lot better, and where you have like, let's say, the ambient smoke here. But it's more that for example, something similar like this could happen, I think, on the impact as well, where you have just that little pop where it just feels like a lot more like impactful. It's like pop when it impacts, because the way you have that here is a lot better. But I just am missing for example, I think it could also be sort of the case where you have it very bright here as well. It's a little weird to see that most of these elements are see-through in the explosion phase, but then the actual brightest elements start to appear as it's sort of decaying. So I will really make sure to really integrate that like a lot better. But the overall structure of this was like really nice, but I think it could be just a lot like zappier. Yeah. It's kind of like the same thing. Like I see, also have like these these smoke puffs coming off the debris that is also flipbook based. And I think I would just also make this like a sprite that is just let's say very small in scale and is more used for like those types of things, or maybe let's say a flipbook that is more tailor made for trails and have like trails coming off of there. Like also look for twinning, because you can sometimes see like these electricity zaps are also kind of slow and also like lumping up a little bit too much. Because if you were to talk about like specific elements, like the smoke right here is perfectly fine, but I'm just missing like also some of like the bleed lighting from like the impact here, where I think that, for example, you had in the other impacts that you had like right here. Just missing that a little here. Could be really nice to like integrate that a little better. But yeah, I think overall it's a bit of the same with like most of the work here. I just alluded to most of the points, I think. Just making sure that you make just keeping in mind the overall resources, make it a bit more generic so that it can still read as like as a little less noisy overall, and see if you can maybe also integrate some less important elements and make it so that it is more shader based, so it's not going to be like solely reliant on flipbooks. But yeah, I think with that, I hope that was all I could sort of cover here. But yeah, thank you so much for your entry, and let's go on to the next one. This one is from Samets. The thing right here is that there, I think first of all, there is a really stark difference in quality for what you have here in the fireball in comparison to the tornado right here. Because what I did see kind of happen, there was this sort of flip that was kind of happening as to these the earliest entries do feel like they lack a lot of the fundamentals in comparison to the newer ones have, because this one feels like a lot heavier. The timing is pretty good. Like especially this one, I really liked. Like the timing for that was really good. But there's some other things we can get into. Yeah, I also saw this one. But that sort of touches upon another subject. But I will get to that one in just a sec. Because for example, if we go back to this one, I guess just given the fact that you maybe could go by the specs of that it has to move this slowly, that makes it so that the overall feel of it is that, yeah, I think the overall snappiness of this feels good. Yeah, there are just some things just to keep in mind. You can kind of see here that on the ground wave you have this break right here. I think this mostly comes down to that. I think the tiling of your like spherical UV function is not set to a power of 2. So I think that's the only thing I would sort of keep in mind there. And I do see, like, also keeping in mind that I think the momentum, you could go for something like where it is really like a spike, but oh yeah, no problem, by the way, Thiago. I would sort of really sort of keep in mind the actual momentum transfer of the way things are moving, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense for, I guess in this context, the like the spike to like move upwards. Oh, anonymous with a $20.32 donation. That's really generous. Thank you so much. But yeah, it doesn't in this context make like a lot of sense that the spike is moving upwards here. I would really make it so that the like the actual impact is sort of maybe wrapping around the character more and is moving in the same direction as the fireball does. And yeah, that sort of counts the same for like the embers right here. Yeah, just I guess you just have to just keep that in mind more. I think the impact decal as well. I think you could maybe sort of make it so that it's more like in a, let's say, in a sort of cone shape. If we go back here. You can grab this real quick. 1 second. Yeah, so I'm just gonna draw on this. So let's say, I think you could maybe look at it in this way, where you, let's say, wrap around the character like a lot more, like this, and then have maybe a like a suit decal that's more like cone shaped. Sort of make sort of that same indication. And yeah, what I was also kind of seeing here is for to maybe go back. Yeah, just keep in mind of your like harsher lines. Actually, that's maybe a bit better to show like this. As you can see, this very harsh line at sort of the exit point. I think what you can sort of do there is just making sure that you have like a second UV set, and make it so that the there is like a like a gradient on the opacity that just makes sure that the ends, or in this case the beginning of the trail, is faded out, so blends in a bit more smoothly based on like that second UV set. And if you go back to this one, it's a very boxy looking, yeah, sort of glow, if that makes sense. So I think in the it could help a lot to make it so that you have, let's say, another like accompanying spell that is then sort of helping with blending in that exit point, like of that fireball. But in this case, it's not really like big enough to sort of take care of that. Because you could almost maybe say you could like overdo it. Maybe have it so that you have, like, let's say, if some like flame licks coming off, like so. But yeah, just in the moment, just make sure that you take care of like that harsh line at the beginning. I think this is more like an animation principle for like the actual shape of the fireball as well. But I would maybe say like the way the shapes are of the fire is really nice, but I do see, for example, that you have like some doubling, like right here. You can see it very subtly, but you can see there this sort of this like this sawtooth like type shape, and see if you can make this a little bit more organic. So yeah, let's say you have some extra extensions here, or let's say some things that are like trailing off in a bit more of a more organic fashion. And in that sense, given it's seemingly also quite on the like energy heavy side, I think you could almost say, for example, that you can make the smoke like a lot thicker as well. So let's see, for example, so maybe could, for example, go for like opting for a little bit of like a subtler trail. But let's see, something like this. Yeah, just keeping in mind that you, let's say, keeping in mind that you have some of the bleed lighting also carry over here. And yeah, what I actually wanted to allude to was maybe, let's say, make the trail a bit more of an S-curve. Sorry, I was muted again. Was I muted for very long? Okay. What I was actually saying was, okay, good. Yeah, what I was trying to say was that there could maybe just be a little bit more of an S curve in this trail, kind of like so. Yeah, just making sure that you have sort of this baked into the texture. Oh, just one sec. Okay, good. And yeah, so you have like that already baked into the texture, but it's a bit of a wider trail, but you still have the effect of that it sort of starts wiggling around. Yeah, also just overall enhancing the more organic look. I think what could also maybe help and be really cool that you also, like, let's say, enhance the overall conical shape of everything. By making it sort of wrap around. More like, I think, this color. I would also maybe see if you can like enhance the overall like visibility of like the embers. So it really, yeah. So yeah, it doesn't fall away. I would say that you maybe up this by maybe around like 50% or so, because yeah, you can probably maybe not even see them on my screen right now. Yeah, and given the fact that it does seem really important in the overall like vibe of the effect, I would maybe just see if you can make it a little just a little bit more size variance and just up the amount, let them linger for just like a little bit longer. So yeah, that's I guess basically the yeah, the thing here that I would say for this one. I think, yeah, what I wanted to say again was, yeah, this one was still, I feel, definitely the one that was feeling the best. Like I guess the thing is just that, yeah, just I think overall you wanted to go for at least a little bit like a hint of some color, but yeah, it's overall like reading as just very like just very white color. And I think I could maybe best illustrate this right here, because that is also showing that it's yeah, it's kind of a bit of a very wide looking like impact, and very, let's say, very blobby, if you will. Let's see if I'm maybe compare and contrast, because that's actually good good screenshots. Because you can probably see here that it's very wide. And let's see if I can go for something a bit more overall, a bit thinner, but more of an emphasis on the actual impact point, if you will. And let's see, because could, for example, say something like this. This is more of a stylized thing, but you could, for example, say that you then make some of the parts just a little thicker, and that can, for example, work really well in, let's say, the points where it starts to turn, and maybe something like this. Maybe have some arcs here going on. Because it really starts, because like the lighting is sort of really starts to wiggle its way around, yeah, the charged air, if you will, and then the main leader is then sort of taking care of that. Okay, this is the pathway that has been the shortest route that it was found, and that's what you can kind of see. And to a lesser degree, those like extra like not sure what they were called again, like scientifically, but you will see these in just a little bit of like a lesser degree. In, let's say, some Gaussian for the glow itself, and then to put a little more more emphasis right here. And then you could, for example, say that you like enhance the actual glow, or maybe the like supporting color with, yeah, maybe just some blue. To see if I can put this behind it. See if that works. And let's see. Yeah, I think that could be a bit more extreme to if that kind of works. Yeah, if you were to go for something more, a bit more like stylized, I guess, then I guess that could kind of work. But something you could maybe also do. This is a bit more of like a detail thing, but it was kind of also sort of emphasizing the point that I was talking about with Tiago. So let's say you have in like imagine this is your lightning bolt. So this can kind of read as like pure white now. But you sort of make it a bit more interesting, and you sort of only highlight just a couple of like spots that are over blooming. Actually, let me see. You could even say, for example, you have like another color that's maybe just a little darker. More of a stylized thing as well, but it could be the case that you employ the same principle as to that it overall just reads a lot more. Yeah, just a little bit more interesting. If that makes sense, because you can kind of see it on like the small size that you can see the hint of the blues, but it still feels like it's very bright still. And in comparison to like this, almost feels like a very big sort of streak of very heated up gas. If that's the kind of the feel you were looking for, then I guess that's good. But we're still insinuating that this is the lightning we're sort of looking at. And I think that also sort of nicely comes back to what I was kind of feeling like I was missing in terms like sort of theme wise, because you already have that nicely here where you have all this arcing like electricity happening, but I'm not really seeing that here when the actual like impact kind of happens. If that makes sense, right? Because so what you can sometimes see, for example, is they sort of go a bit overboard, and then let's say like make it so that you have, for example, like these arcs are coming out all over the place. Sort of really electrifies the ground, if you will. Yeah, also, of course, keeping in mind that you really make the impact here, like definitely the brightest, because that's the place where most of the energy has then, sort of gathered, right? Could maybe even go for let's say some like a directional impact or of some kind, maybe some extra debris that's being sprayed away, some extra sparks even, just to help and enhance that feeling that it's really like powerful. If I go to your latest one, it's only just what I would say here is that it is feeling like it's insinuating that it's gearing up for attack. But when the sort of the release happens, then it is more feeling like it's some sort of buff. So that makes it a bit hard to gauge as to what am I exactly looking at here. So that sort of comes down to as to what kind of direction is it that you want to take this, but make it so that the way you sort of anticipate for it is appropriate with the actual context of the effect. I do see in terms of time that I sadly can go into detail on this much more, but yeah, hopefully the sort of the points that were given on the other ones could maybe also see where you can look at some points of improvement. But yeah, I think with that said, I would really like to also just thank you for your entry, and yeah, let's move on to the last one. Yeah, Anastasia. I was really feeling that there were some really good things in here, but it was kind of suffering from one specific problem, and that was that like a lot of the effects felt kind of suffering that same color depth problem or readability problem of like where lots of colors are being overblown by a lot. Because you can, for example, see this right here. It's absolutely like whiting out everything. It's like almost basking in sort of like that light right here, where you can almost not see most of the enemies out there anymore. But I guess given the context, it's not too big of a deal. Yeah, I guess sort of the same is happening right here. Even though it's very, very like short, you can pause it right here. Yeah, see how bright this is. So I think that can be good for just a fraction, but I think if you were to look at it from a perspective of a how do you say it, where this feels a bit more interesting, then I think it starts to run into a bit of a problem. And I think as well, given how light this is, it doesn't seem like the amount of like the sort of energy being outputted is sort of in accordance with the amount of energy that's being sort of emitted onto the world. This would almost kind of sort of imagine here, if you were to look at this by itself, it would almost say like that it almost needs to like almost light up the entire surrounding area. And yeah, for example, I also saw this, I think, in the beginning of this one. Let's see where this was. Yeah, you see here these like sparks in the beginning that are like super bright. I think that could sort of be counteracted with a little bit more variation in brightness, but more controlled via the size difference, where you can still read that it's very powerful, but basically making it so that it doesn't read as like this like uniform like looking color basically. Because it can be very like a very good sort of way to like hint at something containing a lot of energy, but making things overly bright can like I said before, sort of hamper the overall like interest of it, but can also sometimes really impede on like the actual maybe crucial moments in gameplay, if you will. So I think with like a lot more emphasis on sort of that separation of color, you could still have that same feeling of it feeling very bright, but not as impeding as if you were to let it sort of cool off over like a longer period of time. Because the major thing that was really nice here, especially in this one, is the overall like timing and like the way things were constructed. Like some very detailed textures here that I think like given this the way it is directed, that fits very well like within the game itself. Yeah, it's kind of the same, right? Like right here, right? Yeah, this is the same that where just the dough for punching the feels really good. I think that also, but I think overall what it can sometimes highlight as well is if you were to look at your sort of your tertiary detail, like very fine particles, as you could maybe sort of see here that it all moves almost at the same speed and can be, let's say, almost like almost all the same size. See if the word was again. Yeah, like in any regards, I think there could be just some more variance in the amount of forces that's being applied to it, and maybe just the overall drag. I think there was probably yeah, this is like something very minute, but if let's say for these types of like energy like bursts that are happening like here for example, it's all moving at the same pace at the like at the same pace, and it's forming this like this twinning effect. And if that's possible at all, I would really see if you can try and prevent this, because that really sort of grabs the eye and maybe not in the exact way you want it. And yeah, just all this was just really nice to see. Yeah, that sort of was feeling really good. Yeah, I think just some highlight here. Yeah. This was mostly sort of coming down to that it could use just a little more, just a little bit more like extra effects to really make it feel sort of like complete. Because I would almost say here, for example, that you have a bit more anticipation here on like the actual glow itself on the stone, or that something else is maybe being emanated from the stone. And that you leave a little bit more room for this like this like disappearance effect to maybe settle, because you're still moving like a rock from one place to another. So, but that said, the overall feeling of the actual like timing itself was really like feeling really nice. And then the appearance is kind of the opposite problem, where I think there could be like a lot more emphasis on making sure that the glow is supporting the size of the actual stone itself. That you, for example, maybe let sort of the entire stone sort of glow, and then let it like settle over maybe like half a second. But it could also help making sure that the like the blending of all the other supporting elements of maybe the smoke, or maybe like these motes right here that are coming off, that blends in a bit more like subtly, if that makes sense. And right now it's also just a little bit on the slow side, as I would kind of expect that the sort of the forcefulness, or at least with the forcefulness that was kind of shown there with the way it was sort of appearing, I would almost expect that sort of that similar momentum would sort of carry through, on all those elements that were at least that are supporting this, right? And I think then, especially with the smoke that has appeared, I think with that there could be maybe just be like a lot more extra elements to help support the the way the speed kind of feels of this stone, because it's by itself, and it's only really being supported by this very like sort of very brief streak of light. And given the way, or at least the with the amount of force it's being slammed down, I would almost say, also the amount of momentum that's being sort of expressed here by the dust, and also the amount of debris that's being sort of like thrown upwards. I don't think that's also not really in balance with the amount of momentum that's being put in versus the amount that's being put out. Like for example, right here you have like this this beam right here, where this is like the black part is feeling really nice. Like I would say to that, to also make it just a little bit more interesting. Let's see. There's a good one. If you could maybe zoom in right here, if, for example, you really want to make this sort of this feeling that it's very eerie, wispy looking, if you will. It could almost be that you have a bit more variation in like the texture. Like where you, for example, say like see a little more dark spots. Yeah, just to create just a little bit more visual interest, like in those areas. Yeah, so something like this. So you have maybe just a couple of like spots here. Oh my goodness, Big Liz with $100. Thank you so much for that incredibly generous donation. That's insane. Thank you so much. Yeah, kind of like this, where maybe, let's say, given you are, of course, connecting with the ground. Let me actually go back here, because that's maybe a bit more easy to see. Kind of like so. Yeah, given you're sort of connecting with the ground here now, I would make it so that you have a bit more of those like supporting elements here. That, for example, you have, let's say, just a little bit more smoke. Maybe just to illustrate, just a little bit more smoke here that is like enveloping this ring right here, given it's a very specific AoE type effect. If you sort of make it sort of billow outwards a little more, that can help sort of house the cone shape. But also make it so that you have a sort of insinuation of that it's actually connected to the ground, if that makes sense. And yeah, I think that mostly is count for that specific part. Yeah, if you go to like the beam that's coming from the inside, the overall timing of this is really, really good. It is though that the amount of thickness that the smoke has at the end is not really being supported, I would say. I think that's almost something that I would sort of expect that sort of is more so at the bottom. But given it's sort of insinuating that it's more light based, and I think the way it's sort of like sort of evaporating into just modes, then I think that's a lot more appropriate, I would say. I think with for example, this one as well, it's more of an issue where the amount of momentum is also just maybe a little over the like all over the place with some of the elements, because the way the animation is done, that's feeling really, really good. It's only that in like sort of in contrast, the amount of force that's being outputted by some of the elements is feeling very like very slow. So I think I saw it in this one. Yeah, like the way this was feeling. See, this is like a lot more skill appropriate, and this is like also just that punch that you see that also just feels very nice. Yeah, like this one right here, this beam, like right here, yeah, that's feeling very good. That's kind of what I kind of would expect here. It's again also with like the smoke here that's coming off the rocks. That is just again a bit on the slow side. I would maybe just see if you can maybe sort of keep the same amount of lifetime, but like retime it a bit, where you have like really fast, but most of the time is then dedicated towards decay. I hope I touched upon everything. Yeah, it was more sort of like a theme. It like the thing especially is that the animation is really good, but I would maybe see if you can yeah, just watch on like the overall colors not overblowing too much, where it starts to become too uniform when you want to express very powerful things. See if you can maybe just make it a bit more specific as to where the very bright spots are, and that you can then make it so the overall reads are a bit more interesting. Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much as well for your submissions. And I do see that we sadly are out of time. And with that, I would say thank you so much for being here in the live stream for this final session for the portfolios. And like what's being said just now, stay tuned for the last and final presentation of this charity stream. Stanislav is up next. Give it about 8 minutes or so. Don't go anywhere and stay tuned. Thanks again for watching, and see yous. Bye bye.